Some sci-fi movies try to be smart and grounded. Others completely lose control and become giant explosions of weird ideas, bizarre creatures, strange performances, and total chaos. These are the films that turn science fiction into pure madness from beginning to end. Ten. Village of the Damned, 1995. After every resident in a small town mysteriously loses consciousness at the exact same moment, several women suddenly become pregnant under impossible circumstances. Months later, the children are born with identical appearances, unnatural intelligence, and frightening mental abilities that slowly turn the town into a nightmare. John Carpenter gives the film a cold, eerie atmosphere where even simple conversations feel uncomfortable. Christopher Reeve plays the local doctor trying to understand what's happening, bringing a calm and grounded presence that contrasts with the growing paranoia around him. The children themselves are what make the movie disturbing, not because they scream or attack constantly, but because they barely show emotion at all. Their blank expressions and quiet behavior make every scene feel tense. The movie becomes increasingly chaotic as fear spreads through the town and people begin realizing how dangerous the children really are. Nine. Children of Men, 2006. In a future where humanity has become infertile and society is collapsing from hopelessness, a disillusioned man unexpectedly becomes responsible for protecting the first pregnant woman seen in years. Alfonso Cuarón approaches the story with an intense sense of realism, making the world feel frighteningly believable. Cities are overcrowded, governments are collapsing, and violence feels constant in the background of everyday life. Clive Owen gives a tired, restrained performance that perfectly fits the hopeless tone of the film. The action scenes are chaotic in a completely different way than most sci-fi movies, especially the long tracking shots that place the viewer directly inside the panic and destruction. Instead of flashy spectacle, the film builds tension through atmosphere and emotional exhaustion. Even small moments feel heavy because the world itself seems like it's dying in slow motion.
Hands above your head and fucking move out here. Tell me, fuck your cousin! You're on your knees! On your knees! You was 19! Don't kill him!
8. The Relic, 1997. A series of brutal murders inside a Chicago museum leads investigators to discover a horrifying creature stalking the building after being accidentally brought back from South America. The movie blends monster horror with sci-fi concepts involving biology and mutation, creating a tense and surprisingly grim atmosphere. Penelope Ann Miller and Tom Sizemore help keep the story moving with grounded performances, even when the movie becomes increasingly ridiculous. The dark museum setting works perfectly, turning giant exhibition halls and underground tunnels into claustrophobic nightmare spaces. The creature design is genuinely unsettling, especially because the movie hides it for long stretches before fully revealing it. Peter Hyams directs everything with aggressive pacing and heavy shadows, making the film feel chaotic without completely losing control. Once the panic starts spreading through the museum, the movie barely slows down. Seven. Mutant War, 1988. Set in a post-apocalyptic wasteland filled with mutants and violent gangs, the story follows a group of fighters trying to survive against grotesque enemies created through bizarre experiments. The plot itself barely matters because the movie is mostly an excuse for non-stop chaos, awkward fight scenes, and strange creature effects. Everything about it feels cheap in the most entertaining way possible. Characters constantly yell dramatic lines while wandering through abandoned locations that barely resemble a believable future. The mutant makeup effects are messy but memorable, giving the film a strange charm despite how ridiculous everything becomes. Brett Piper throws ideas at the screen without much restraint, making the movie feel unpredictable from scene to scene. It's the kind of low-budget sci-fi madness that somehow becomes more entertaining the more unhinged it gets.
Eat this.
6. The Phantom Empire, 1988. After surviving a nuclear apocalypse, humanity is divided between surface scavengers and underground mutants fighting for control in a ruined future. The movie mixes sci-fi, fantasy, and exploitation elements into something completely chaotic. Jeffrey Combs gives a surprisingly committed performance in a film where almost everything else feels absurd. The world itself barely follows consistent logic, constantly introducing strange costumes, bizarre weapons, and random mutant characters. Fred Olen Ray directs the film with pure exploitation energy, making every scene feel exaggerated. The sets and effects are clearly low budget, but that roughness adds personality to the madness. It feels less like a carefully planned movie and more like somebody filmed an apocalyptic fever dream over a weekend.
Now you're gonna be sorry.
5. Mars Attacks, 1996. Martians arrive on Earth claiming peaceful intentions, only to unleash complete destruction in one of the strangest alien invasion movies ever made. Tim Burton intentionally turns the film into a giant piece of controlled chaos, filling every scene with bizarre humor, exaggerated violence, and cartoonish performances. The cast is enormous, with actors like Jack Nicholson, Glenn Close, Pierce Brosnan, and Danny DeVito all embracing the absurd tone. The aliens themselves are what truly define the movie, especially their high-pitched voices and childish cruelty. The visual style feels colorful and exaggerated, almost like a live-action comic book from another dimension. Beneath all the humor, the movie constantly feels unpredictable because absolutely nobody seems safe. It's loud, messy, ridiculous, and completely unforgettable. Four. Metalstorm, The Destruction of Jared-Syn, 1983. A drifter armed with futuristic weapons hunts a dangerous tyrant across a desert wasteland filled with strange technology and bizarre factions. The movie feels like someone combined every 80s sci-fi trend into one giant experiment. The story itself is simple, but the presentation is non-stop visual chaos involving mutants, glowing crystals, explosions, and awkward 3D effects. Richard Mall gives Jared-Syn a weirdly intimidating presence, turning the villain into one of the movie's most memorable elements. The costumes and sets look both ambitious and incredibly cheap at the same time, which strangely adds to the experience. Charles Band clearly cared more about creating weird imagery than logical storytelling, and honestly, that's what makes the movie entertaining. Every few minutes, something bizarre appears on screen. Three. The Island of Dr. Moreau, 1977. A shipwrecked man arrives on a remote island ruled by a scientist performing grotesque experiments that transform animals into human-like creatures. Burt Lancaster plays Dr. Moreau with unsettling calmness, making the character feel intelligent and completely detached from morality at the same time. The atmosphere becomes increasingly uncomfortable as the protagonist realizes how unstable the island truly is. The creature makeup effects remain impressive, especially considering the time period, and the humanoid animals create a constant feeling of unease. Unlike more action-driven sci-fi films, this one builds madness slowly through philosophical ideas about control, identity, and cruelty. By the final act, the tension completely explodes as the island descends into violence and chaos. Two, The Green Slime, 1968. After astronauts accidentally bring back a strange alien organism from space, the creature rapidly multiplies and begins attacking everyone aboard a massive space station. The movie embraces pure sci-fi insanity almost immediately. The creatures themselves look ridiculous, with giant single eyes and bizarre tentacle-like bodies, yet the film treats them with complete seriousness. The bright lighting, colorful sets, and over-dramatic performances make everything feel strangely surreal. Action scenes become louder and more chaotic as the infestation spreads through the station. Even the soundtrack adds to the madness, especially the infamous opening theme song that sounds completely disconnected from the horror happening on screen. It's impossible to predict the tone from one scene to the next. One, Beyond Atlantis, 1973. A group of treasure hunters travels to a mysterious island searching for riches, only to discover a hidden civilization filled with mutated aquatic creatures and strange rituals. The movie constantly shifts between adventure, horror, fantasy, and exploitation without ever settling into one style. The atmosphere feels humid and uncomfortable, with the island itself seeming increasingly hostile as the story progresses. The creature designs are bizarre even by 70s standards, combining fish-like features with human appearances in ways that feel genuinely strange. Performances range from serious to completely exaggerated depending on the scene, which somehow makes the experience even more chaotic. Eddie Romero fills the movie with surreal imagery and unpredictable moments, turning the entire film into a fever dream that becomes stranger the longer it goes on.
Do you recognize it?
If you enjoyed this journey into the hidden corners of cinema, don't forget to hit the like button, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, and most importantly, subscribe to Cinemira for more strange, forgotten, and fascinating films. Your support keeps this adventure alive. And trust me, there's so much more to discover together.